Hey, homeschool mom. Does your family love a read aloud with picture books that have vivid illustrations? Our kids always loved those, and we've recently discovered a way to make them even more engaging. We sure wish we had used it when we were homeschooling, and we're excited to share it with you because we see how it gets kids extremely motivated to read and boost their reading comprehension skills like crazy. All right, let's find out more and get on with the show.
Hey, I'm Jenny Barr.
And I'm Kim Godfrey.
We're friends, former teachers, and homeschool moms ourselves who host the Homeschool Well podcast. We talk about topics that are important to homeschool moms so that you can be your child's best teacher.
All right, what is this read aloud strategy that's going to boost my child's reading comprehension skills? Kim, come on. Tell us all about it. Okay, I will. It started as a game that I used throughout my homeschool journey when my kids were listening to longer selections from, for example, history from chapter books that had no illustrations in them. And I had options for them to kind of stay quietly busy while I was reading. And they knew that when I stopped reading, they would tell me back some of the things that they remembered from the story. So one of the options was this idea of making a movie in your mind. So while I was reading, they were to create the visual of what was happening in their mind. And then when I stopped reading, it would be easier for them to retell the main ideas of what I had read. Now, the other two strategies are pretty good as well. We're not going to talk deeply about those today, but I will mention them. My son loved to create the scene with Legos, and my daughter liked to do the same thing with like her stuffed animals because she had a ton of stuffed animals. So they would create the scene with some manipulatives, or they both enjoyed drawing the scene. And that is going to go along with a journaling podcast that I'm doing next. That is a big, deep, rich experience, the Reading Reaction Journal. Just stay tuned for that. That's a little nugget there for you to look forward to. But today we are going to focus just on the making a movie in your mind strategy. Okay, so until just this last week, I've only really used that strategy when I was reading something from a text that had no pictures, okay? And I should say that our love in our family for audiobooks sparked this idea. We listened to audiobooks so much, especially on car rides around town or long road trips. And it was just natural that when the car stopped, we would start reflecting on what the story meant to us and what stood out to us and how we felt about some of the things in the story. And that just kind of bridged into this whole, like, what did the scene look like to you in your mind? So making a movie in your mind is just that. Imagining the scene in your mind according to how you were impressed by the story. You can imagine how that increases reading comprehension in general, right? They have something to actively do, but it's yet quiet and relaxing while they're listening and they're seeing these things take shape in their mind. And then the cool part about that is that everyone's movie in their mind is different and unique and special according to the things that stood out to them. So not only does it help an individual's reading comprehension, but it helps the whole group of you get to know each other. And as a person, it helps you realize, oh, wow, so I am really interested in this thing, whereas my brother didn't think about that at all in his movie. Like, he didn't put that in his scene at all in his mind. He put all these other things in his mind, and that's where, his interests lie. And so it really helps you kind of get to know yourself and also about each other. So it's a great, like, team builder. I was really big on that in our homeschool, that, we're a team Godfrey. So let's, like, support each other. And it's easier to do that when you know more about each other. And how you feel about stories is a huge deal to increase also your intrinsic love of learning. I'm so big on that too, right? So my kids know that books hold those special things. Those are like gems, right? Being connectors with our minds and how we learn best and the things that we like and our interests. And then when we do it together and we talk about it together, we can enhance our relationship with each other and our community with each other. Oh, just kind of like makes me want to cry a little bit, right? Okay. I'm getting all sappy about this make a movie in your mind. Okay. So let's fast forward to the new way that I did it last week. It was so cool. And I didn't think about it in advance at all. It totally came from this feeling of not being in control and like, oh my gosh, like panic. I need to do something that makes these kids chill out. Okay, so let me tell you the scenario. So fast forward to this school year, which just started for us a few weeks ago. And God has arranged it so that Jenny is actually teaching part-time elementary school at a brick and mortar private school. And she needed an assistant part-time. And guess who her assistant is? It's me. It's so crazy and fun. And we are having so much fun being in the classroom again together. If you don't know about our history, she was my best volunteer when I ran the children's ministry at my church. And so when I taught on Wednesday nights, she taught with me. She taught the younger kids and I taught the older kids. And there were many times, every Wednesday, we started out in the room together and then we separated into our age groups. But anyway, she was my go-to volunteer and she's just such an amazing teacher. And now that I've been in her classroom, it's only been 2 weeks, I'm like, wow, she is blowing me out of the water with like the way she gets these kids to do these things. They're in second and third grade, you guys, and she's already got them like picking up that pencil and doing good things with it. So I also am going to use this experience to share some of her powerful teaching strategies with you. So pay attention to our emails and our podcasts because I'm going to just pick up my phone and make sure I'm only videotaping what she's teaching so that you can learn some of her amazing strategies that she's using with these kids. Okay, so back to the make a movie in your mind strategy. All right. It was reading time and they had just come from the playground or something where they were so just like, they get worked up and it's hard to settle back down. So I picked up this amazing, vibrant picture book. I had never read it before. I didn't know what the story was inside, but the cover pictures were really fun. And I just immediately thought, if I had these kids put their head down and hide their eyes, then I could read the story and they would calm down. Often when I'm teaching kids, even when I taught my jump team, if they were really having a hard time concentrating, or for jump rope, when I had a bunch of kids with ropes swinging around, it was a safety issue. So I would have to really get them to use some self-control skills. And so that whole hide your eyes, put your head down, let's relax. And normally I would pray over them, right? And I would pray for me, like, Lord, help me lead this group of kids, in a godly manner and help them, have self-control. So anyway, that concept that I had used many times to pray over kids and get them to relax and calm down and stuff. That concept came to mind right then, right? So I'm like, okay, you guys, let's just put your heads down, hide your eyes, let's relax like we did the other day. But I'm going to do a little bit different thing with read aloud today. I'm going to read the book. And mind you, I'm making this up. Okay, I'm going to say God gave this to me as I was saying this. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's what I'm going to do. Oh, this is a great idea, right? So I'm saying, I'm going to read you this story. It has great pictures in it. However, I don't want you to open your eyes. I want you to make a movie in your mind while I'm reading of what you think the pictures and the illustrations look like. I want you to make your own illustrations in your mind of this book while I read it. Don't peek. Don't try to look at the pictures. I'm going to hold it really close to my body so you can't see them at all. But I also want you to use this time to relax and keep your body still and to make these pictures in your mind that match the story. So while you're being still with your eyes closed, you're listening to the words and you're making the movie match the story that you hear me saying. So you have to listen, you have to be still. And some of your kids might have a hard time like this. They cannot keep their eyes shut. It's like every 5 seconds they start opening their eyes, right? So I had to stop a couple times and just remind them, okay, I can't, keep reading the book until you restart your movie in your mind. Like, close your eyes. You can't be making a movie in your mind if you're looking at the bookshelf or looking at your pencil. It's like totally distracting the movie that you're making. So close your eyes and look at your movie. And then I had a few kids, and again, your child might not be able still to keep their eyes closed. I had a few kids who couldn't do it. And I would just use my little hand signal, like my fingers shutting together, and I didn't have to say a word. I would just remind them with my hands, like, close your eyes, with my fingers shutting. And they would close their eyes and open them again, 30 seconds later, and I'd do it again. But anyway, they still made the movie. It was just a little bit more distracting. And it was the first time that I did it with them, so I'll be interested to see the next time that I do it. I encourage you, I know it's so hard. That's one of the hardest things, right, is being distracted by behaviors or misbehaviors while you're trying to teach. But once you do something as a pattern and a system, you do it more than once, it'll get better and better, and they'll realize the point of it. We got to the end of the book. Nobody had seen the pictures. They were so excited to see the pictures. And I was like, yes, they are all engaged. Every single one of those kids in that classroom were engaged and were excited to tell me about their movie. And then we got to look at the pictures and see if some of the things in their movie matched the pictures in the book. And there were a couple of points in the book that were good spots for me to stop and remind them and to remember what that scene looked like. For example, there was a balloon that was part of the story. I said, now remember this balloon. I wonder if the color of your balloon will be the same color as the one in this book. Oh, I can't wait to find out. And then there was a hamster, and the hamster was wearing a costume. And so I stopped and I said, oh my goodness, I wonder if the costume that your hamster has on in your mind, I wonder if that costume matches the one in this book. That would be so cool if it did. And I'm excited to hear about what your costume looks like at the end. So remember the costume that your hamster is wearing right now. And that kind of guides them if they're distracted and reminds them of what they're doing and helps their mind like focus and weave on that part of the story. So then afterwards, at least there's those two parts, that I called their attention to that they're more than likely to remember. I hope that I have explained this very clearly. Let me just summarize the steps and how it would go. First, you're going to choose a picture book that has vivid details and illustrations, and it's a good idea to pick something the first time that's relevant to your child's interests. You can go off to new concepts and topics as they get better at this strategy, okay? And then the second step would be to explain to them the movie in your mind concept, that they simply are going to listen to you tell them a story, and they're going to imagine all the details of the words that you speak. You can have them practice before you start reading the book. And you can tell them a quick story of an experience that they have had recently. For example, maybe you talk about what y'all had for dinner the night before, where it was, who they ate with, and something that happened during dinner or something that was discussed during the meal. And so then they're like remaking that scene in their mind. And you're going to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, but it's going to be with a new book that you've never heard before. You can say, hey, let's practice again, and I'll tell you a quick story of something that's never happened to you. And let's see how good you are at creating the visuals of this new story. And so you quickly tell something about maybe going on a walk in Hawaii. And I mean, maybe you've been to Hawaii, so just change the place, okay? Tell them a little story, something they've never experienced, and then ask them to tell you how easy it was to create the visuals themselves. and to make that movie and see if they can tell it back to you. This will help you modify the length of the book or the number of pages that you read with this process. If they have a hard time when you practice it, maybe only do this for the first 2 pages of the book. If they're really good at it, then you know that you can go off into a book that isn't of their interest sooner. Just gauge their comfort level and modify it as you need to so that it isn't a burden or something that isn't fun. You want it to be fun, right? Once you do those things, it's time to do it for realsies. Get that picture book and make sure your kids have not read it or seen it. Be sure it has vivid illustrations and like word pictures in the text, the pictures that are on the page that match the word. Don't use a book that's filled with abstracts or like poetry symbolism or something like that. Just remember, do not even show them the cover of the book. That's very important because you want that whole surprise element to be there when you're done with the book. Okay, you have them relax somewhere, lay down if they want to. They have to hide their eyes, but make it sound not like you have to if you have kids who are like taking that as a power struggle. We get to, how about that? We get to lay down today for read aloud and hide your eyes. And then think about a couple of good places to stop and remind them of what they're doing and of the little element that you're going to definitely want them to remember. That was my balloon and the hamster costume parts. And then when the story is over, you're going to go back to the beginning. They get to open their eyes, and page by page, you're going to discuss all the ways that their movie was similar and different to the actual illustrations in the book. It's so fun. It was such a great thing. We had so much fun with it. In our class, we had one girl who picked the same color balloon. It was yellow, and she picked a yellow balloon also, and all the other kids remembered the color of their balloon. And then the hamster costume. One boy was so cute. This little girl in the book was a juggler, and he had the hamster in a ball costume. So the hamster looked like another one of the juggling balls that she maybe was juggling with. And that was a fun costume, right? A hamster dressed up like a ball for the juggler. What a connection. Then you can take that make a movie in your mind element. You can weave it across every subject. It is a whole lot of fun, but more importantly, it creates these powerful connections with books and stories, even nonfiction. I told you that's how I used it in my homeschool, was all of the kind of dry history books that we read. They came to life with this movie idea. And my kids were able to remember and retain so much of the facts from the book. It's just, that's the crazy boosting of the reading comprehensions. My kids were able to remember and retell the dry facts, of history. And then in my scenario here with the fun picture book, these kids had fun with it. There was one boy, he never opened his eyes once. And during the funny scene, he laughed so much at the movie that he was making in his mind. Yeah, of course my words were funny, but trust me, he would not have been laughing that much had it not been for this creative thing that he was making in his mind to go along with it. So I just ate it up, and I can't wait to do it again. And I would love to hear how your family does with this strategy. So reach out to us. I also want to point out another reading game that's in the resources section of our website called the Sweetie Treaty Scavenger Hunt. That was something that I created for my son when he was in kindergarten because he did not want to read. And so he learned to read with a scavenger hunt. And then my daughter, who was 4 years older than him, was so excited to start to write the clues for the scavenger hunt. So I had this multi-age thing going of, my son learning to read from the clues that his sister was learning to write. And that was amazing. So you can get that for free by going to the resources section of the homeschoolwell.com. And then you'll be added to our email list so you can get all the Friday freebies. Every Friday, Miss Jenny, the amazing reading teacher, is sending out. So between the making the movie in your mind and the Sweetie Treaty scavenger hunt, your kids are going to be so amped up to read because it's just a fun game. It is fun. Not when you're struggling with words on a page, though. It's fun when reading comes alive and there's something tangible about it. So I do encourage you to use both of these skills, making a movie in your mind and the Sweetie Treaty scavenger hunt, and reach out to us and let us know how it goes. And listen, if you have a hard time implementing or even thinking about implementing these strategies into your day, but you really want to, that is why we're here. That is why we have The Well, which is our online homeschool community for moms just like you. And we meet every week with them to help them do things, like I just said, implement the make a movie strategy. We can model teaching strategies for you, answer questions. If we don't know the answer, we usually know where to find it because we've been around a little while on this teaching and homeschool journey. So we would love to link hands with you and help you make your homeschool journey easier and actually enjoyable. Visit thehomeschoolwell.com, click Get Community and Weekly Support. We will see you next time. Have a great day.
Are you looking for a place to connect with other homeschool moms? Well, we have a platform where members gather to support each other throughout their homeschool journeys. Moms just like you. We even have a spot for your kids to interact online in privacy and safety. So head over there and start creating community. thehomeschoolwell.com.